Hi, welcome to Art for the Soul. I'm Mica, your host, and today I am going to share with you something that has been a big part of my creative journey and my personal growth and spiritual growth, and that has been my daily sketchbook practice. I can't begin to tell you how beneficial this daily sketchbook practice has been for me. It has brought me, first of all, a lot of joy in just painting and drawing and sketching in my sketchbook. It also helps me with my mental well-being. It helps me stay calm. It helps me navigate life's challenges when I just sort of dive in for 15, 20, or 30 minutes every day in my sketchbook with my paintbrush and my watercolor paints and my gel pens. It just brings me so much happiness and joy, and it's really easy to get started, and that's what this episode is about. I'm going to walk you through just how to get started with some basic supplies. This is part one, and then I will come out with a part two where I'll have more specific prompts on actually what to start painting in your sketchbook. So I really hope you enjoy this video and it helps you get started with your daily sketchbook practice. So let's dive in. Okay, I am going to walk you through the basic supplies that you need to get started with your daily sketchbook practice. This is going to be an overview, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each of the supplies so that you have additional information. So first off, you need a sketchbook. So a watercolor sketchbook that is cold pressed paper is great, and something smaller in size is great to start with. This is 5 by 5 into 8.5 inches. So something smaller is great to start. And then once you're more seasoned in your sketchbook practice, you can get into a larger sketchbook, but something smaller to start is great. You definitely need some watercolor paints. You could do the pan paints, or you can use tubes. I use both. And if you're using the tube paints, you need to have a paint tray. And I really recommend the ceramic paint tray because those seem to work best in terms of mixing your watercolor paints. But you don't have to get the actual trays with the wells like that. You can even just use a plate such as this. This is a paint tray plate. But if you want an even simpler option, go to the dollar store and just get any ceramic plate, like a tea saucer or something like that. That's equally fine. You need to have a couple of different sizes of paintbrushes. I like to use round, but you can also use flat. Just have them in different sizes. You will need some fine liner pens in different sizes. These are all in black. In different sizes, and the key to the fine liners, that there's a variety of different brands, but the key is it should be waterproof. So you want to make sure you check that. You need a pencil to just draw your designs. A mechanical pencil with just regular HB lead is great. An eraser. Gel pens. I use a lot of the gold and the white. These are Uniball, but there are a lot of different, again, variety of brands for gel pens. And just a simple ruler. And then, of course, you will also need a water container just to be able to clean your brushes. And that's your basic supply list. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each supply so that you have some additional information and you know what you need to get. Okay, let's go into a little more detail about sketchbook options. So you want to look for a watercolor sketchbook and cold press. Most of these sketchbooks are going to be cold press paper, but you just want to double check it's cold press. You can see some sketchbooks will have this sort of spiral bound, which is fine. You can use that. I usually like to paint on both sides of the paper. So you can have that type of sketchbook. Something smaller is probably good to start with, like a 5 by 5 into 8.5 inches. That way it's just easier to fill the page and you don't have to maybe have a little more panic or stress about how you're going to fill the page, especially when you're starting out. So something like this is great. Here's another sketchbook. This opens up this way. It's a little bit smaller, but it's also like a watercolor cold pressed paper. So this is another great option. And then the other option is to get a sketchbook that's bound like a book. So this one's a little bit bigger, but it's another great option. Again, it's just watercolor paper, cold press, and I've been able to like fill in my pages. So I use a variety of sizes. So that's your first step. So get yourself a sketchbook, find something that you like, and that will be the first step to get started in your sketchbook practice. Next, let's dive into the watercolor paint option. So you've got pan paints like this or like this. There's a variety of colors. You can use any pan paints that you have on hand. I will share with you in the links in the description some of my favorites, but just know you can use any kind of pan paints. And I like to use a mix of the pan paints along with tube paints. The other alternative for the watercolor paints is to use a tube paint. So I use a lot of tube paints. I also use the pan paints. And, there's different brands. I use a variety of brands. This one's HWC. This is Winsor Newton. This is Daniel Smith. These are the brands that I usually use, but there are many brands. So whatever brands you have on hand is perfectly fine for this sketchbook practice. And using a mix, or if you just want to use tube paints or just want to use pan paints, that's totally fine. The thing about the tube paints is you definitely need a paint palette. I don't recommend plastic. I really recommend a ceramic paint tray, which again, I'll have links to these so you can decide if you want to purchase the same ones. But again, don't feel you have to go and buy these exact paint trays. You can use a paint tray plate, which is also very convenient, especially when you want to mix your colors, or just go to the dollar store and just get any kind of ceramic plate. It doesn't have to even be specific for watercolor paint. Just get a ceramic tea saucer, and that's fine as well. But I do highly, highly recommend the ceramic and not using plastic, because it just doesn't blend as well. Like the paints, when you're trying to mix, doesn't blend as well. And then even if you're not mixing, you're just using the solo color as is. When you mix it with the water, it's just not as easy to blend with a plastic paint tray. So I do recommend using ceramic. You need a variety of different sized paint brushes. I generally use round. That doesn't mean you can't use a flat brush, but I like using round. And I've got a size 5, size 4, size 3, a 2, and then a small size 1. So if you have a variety of sizes, then that allows you to do like the broader background strokes, or any detail that you need to do. You can use a small paintbrush. So definitely get a variety of brushes. Again, the brand doesn't matter. You want to make sure it's a watercolor brush. But there are different brands out there again, so you can kind of figure out what your budget is and then get some a variety of sizes of watercolor brushes. Any brand is fine. You will need to get a variety of sizes of these fine liners in black. You can also use different colors. They do come in different colors as well, but I stick to black. I have different sizes that I use from 0.1 all the way to 1. So this gives me, again, it's the thickness of the nib. So if I want a finer line versus a thicker line, which would be like something like this. Oh, that's very fine, actually. It would be this one. This is going to be thicker. So it depends when you're sketching it out, what you're doing. So it's good to have a variety of sizes. This brand is Winsor Newton. There are other brands. You can use Micron, and there are probably other brands as well. So once again, use what you have, or what you're able to find. The key thing is these fine liners, you need to make sure that they're waterproof. So that when you're, painting on top of these fine liner outlined lines, it doesn't smudge. Once you've drawn something and you paint over it, because it's waterproof, it won't smudge. So that's the main thing to make sure whenever you're looking for micron or looking for these fine liner pens, make sure that it is waterproof. And, finally, you want to make sure you have a pencil, just a mechanical pencil, ordinary mechanical pencil with just HB lead is perfectly fine. You don't need anything more fancier than that. Any kind of eraser is fine. Gel pens, I like to use Uniball, but there are different brands as well. So you can look and see what other brands you can get. I usually use a gold and a white. These gel pens come in different colors too, but my go-to is always the gold and the white. And then you just want a ruler in case you need to draw any straight lines. And I use a ruler a lot just to draw my border around the page. And then the rest of my sketching, when I'm doing my sketchbook art, it's just very loose with a pencil, very, very loose. I'm not really doing any hard lines, but it's good to have a ruler. And this is optional, but I love the Finetec pearlescent color. They're metallic. And, I use a lot of the gold in my sketchbook art. So if you can get metallic paints, like the metallic watercolor paints, again, there are different brands available. This particular one is Finetec. But if you can get this, that would be great. But this is optional. It's not something you have to get started with your daily sketchbook practice. And now I'm just going to do sort of a very quick demo on how I get started with my daily sketchbook practice. And I usually start by first drawing a border on my page. Oops, I got a little messed up, so let me fix that. And then I, dive into my sketching and painting. So enjoy this little demo. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode and it really inspires you to get started with your daily sketchbook practice. Make sure you leave me some comments letting me know what supplies you're using and if you got started. And please make sure you subscribe so that you know when part 2 comes out, and then just all my other creative videos. Whenever they launch, you'll get notified if you subscribe. And be sure to check out the links in the description. I've got some links to a blog post that I've written where you can read about this whole process of getting set up for your sketchbook practice, and just other information as well. So I will see you again soon.